My name is Emily, and I'm celebrating 5 years of full-time entrepreneurship April 30th. And I've had the honor and privilege of supporting many other women over the last 5 years in growing their businesses with smart strategy and focused execution. This is number 5 of what my most successful clients had in common. And it's when things go wrong, and they will, how you handle it is everything in business. I want to tell you a story that happened a couple years ago, and it was right around April 1st, which is April Fool's Day, and this was not a joke, it actually happened. So my client and I had been working on a launch, and we had planned out a fantastic launch. She had given a preview call, had 285 people sign up. I listened to the call along while she delivered it live, and it was fantastic. What happened afterwards was interesting. So she had this preview call. Hey Stephanie, thanks for joining me live. So she had this preview call, had 285 people sign up, and afterwards she was sending people, or at the end she was sending people to a sales page for her program. And time went by and she didn't have any sales. So normally what would happen is you would expect to have some sales right at the end of the call when you announce the program or shortly after. And hours went by, no sales. Next morning, she contacted me and I was really confused because I really couldn't see a good way of why this would have happened. So I went on to her sales page to look it over. And I saw, as I clicked onto the Buy Now button, up popped an error. And it said something like error detected. And essentially what had happened was it was an incorrect link put in for the Buy Now button. So no one could have possibly signed up for her program. And I emailed her right away, and apparently inquiry or a prospect had also emailed right around the time saying that they weren't able to sign up. So all was resolved. The link was checked and fixed, and she notified the people who had signed up that it was ready to go, and she got signups, and the launch continued on. And everything was fine. I believe that it was something like, it was in the high 40s. It was less than 50 people, but a really good number of people who ended up signing up for her program, so it wasn't that it was impacted. But of course she could have freaked out and said, no one's signing up, that's it, I quit. And sometimes I've seen people when I'm working with them, especially around a launch, there's a lot of emotion and it is a lot of work. It doesn't have to be stressful, but it is a lot of work. And sometimes what they'll take is an initial response and say, no, I'm just going to not do these things. Even though we had a plan, they'll start taking pieces out of the plan. And I want to tell you that things go wrong. So sometimes it doesn't turn out exactly like how you'd hoped. A lot of times what happens is you say, oh, I'm going to do this wonderful program, or I'm offering a free class or a free challenge, and you make one announcement to your email list or perhaps in your Facebook group, and you have no one or only a handful of people sign up. And you can get really discouraged with that initial response. But what I know to be true is that you need to keep going. I love this quote or this saying, keep going, you could be 5 minutes before the miracle. And I want to share that lots of things have happened in my clients' businesses over the years. So another example is my client was doing a very large launch. It was at the end of 2015. It was another preview call. So this is a separate client. She was doing a preview call for a program that she was launching. And when she called in for the preview call, she could hear herself talking. And she tried to keep going, couldn't really figure out what was happening. But what happened was, on the same conference line, she had a call every other Wednesday that would play automatically. And she was also trying to give a preview call on that Wednesday at the same time. And so that original automatic recording was playing for this other call, and she was trying to give it at the same time. So she had a lot of people. Like, I'm thinking, I'm sure there was more than 700. There was probably something like 1,000 people who signed up. Well, I remember hearing from her, she was quite upset about this happening and felt very discouraged. And she told me that she went around screaming and crying and cleaned her house like a madwoman for a couple hours. But came back to it. We talked about it and realized, okay, we're going to have it the very next day and it will be fine. So she announced that this had happened. She apologized. She even gave the people who had signed up a little bonus, something that she had created previously, as a way of saying thank you and also sorry, even though it was really just a fluky, honest mistake. But she did this. And the point is that you could have said, okay, forget it. This is too hard. I don't want to do this. There's so many other ways that she could have handled it. And what I like about this situation is that, yes, she had a freak out. She was really upset. So she was really embarrassed. She was mad that it had happened and really unsure of how people would take it or perceive. And this was a really bad start to the launch of her program, which she had high expectations for. But the point is that she contained it. And so I think that it's perfectly okay to be mad or upset or frustrated or discouraged or confused or any of those emotions, but you have to contain it and then say, okay, what am I going to do to move forward? So here's another example. Of course, all of these seem to have to do with technology. But here, I want to give you another example that doesn't have to do with technology. So a client of mine was offering a 6-month program for the first time. She had offered lots of VIP days and 3-month packages, but she had never offered something that was 6 months. And she had a block around that, thinking that it was a lot more of a commitment for the person to be signing up for. She ended up having someone sign up. They were very enthusiastic to work with her. They had a couple sessions and then found out that their husband had lost his job. And this impacted their decision that they wanted to continue and see if they could get out of the coaching contract. And again, it was a situation that wasn't necessarily positive, and you could have taken it, especially because my client had already worked through some blocks around offering something for 6 months and having someone sign up for that length of a commitment. You could have taken it poorly. But again, it's all in your perspective. And I want to tell you, of course, that these things are going to happen. Things have happened to me in my business. And what I've noticed too with my clients as they grow their business, things happen, not necessarily, the tech, of course, tech can always happen. It doesn't matter how well you check or prepare or practice. All of those help, obviously, and they're important to do. But things can happen. But also, things can happen like you get haters. So someone will reply to a blog post or email that you send out and they're not necessarily kind about it. Or let's say you post videos on Facebook or YouTube and you can get trolls who are saying very mean things. And sometimes that happens when you're growing your business and you're enlarging your audience. So I just want to, say that it's not all rosy and really make it clear that yes, this happens, but it's all in how you handle it. And if you can handle it with grace and continue moving forward, that is what is the most important thing. So my most successful clients absolutely have negative, unexpected things happen in their business, but it's how they deal with it. So now it's your turn. I want you to accept that it doesn't always look like rosy, and what you see on the outside may be highlights of what is actually happening. There's probably a lot of work and some frustration and definitely some snafus that have happened that you don't see or you haven't known about. So I want to normalize that for you, but I also feel like one of the ways you can get around this is by having some accountability, or having someone who gets it, who you can talk to about it. And for me, what I found best is I've had an accountability buddy, and even I was emailing with her this morning about a situation, not necessarily negative, but about handling it proactively. And it's so supportive to have someone in your corner that you can talk with and talk over these situations. Or if you say, okay, I'm going to do this call and something comes up, maybe you don't get the response that you want, or there is some technical problem with the call, having someone that you can go to and come back to, and they give you some encouragement or support and allow you to continue on with your plan and continue to take action. So for me, accountability buddy has worked really well. For one of my clients, she shared that having me in her business, so I was acting as her online business manager, and having me in her corner, it was okay. So even though something may or may not happen, there's Emily says that we're going to do this, and this is the plan, and I'm working with someone else. So again, there was a sense of accountability. So yes, you can take the time to be mad and stomp around and scream or whatever you need to do, but you come back to it and you have someone else who is like, okay, we can handle this. Let's look at how we can prevent this, or let's look at how to best move forward and take the action that, you know, is going to get the results that we desire. So that works really well, having a team member. And, you know, this doesn't have to be a business manager. It could be a virtual assistant. So I've seen the same thing with some of my clients who then hire a virtual assistant and have a sense of accountability again with having someone else there, even if it's just for a few hours per month. So that can work really well. And the third option around accountability is, of course, having a coach. So some of my clients, that's what they use me for. As a coach and a consultant, then we're setting out, okay, essentially this is your homework or these are your next action steps, and I'm checking in. So I'm not just checking in to see if you did it, but I'm also providing you with best practices and what your next step is after that, and problem solving around whatever it is that you're doing as well. And so having someone who is experienced with proven results obviously helps you in building your business and helps you when those things happen or things go wrong and you need to know how to deal with them or move forward. So those are 3 options for you. I encourage you to think about the support that you do have and take an inventory. Ask yourself whether you need some outside accountability. A lot of women that I work with are very driven and motivated and ambitious, which is wonderful, but you know, sometimes you need a little bit of a boost. You either need to talk it over with someone or you want someone there to celebrate when things go right. So that is, again, number 5 of what my most successful clients have in common. Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow for number 4 in our Facebook group here, Online Business Made Simple, at 12 noon Eastern. I will be going live and sharing that with you then. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.